Welcome to English for Engineers. I'm your host, Olivia Augustin. Tune in as I dig deep into all things technical English, and international business communication to bring you a lifetime of knowledge in a digestible format. Hello, friends, fellow engineers, and the occasional word nerd who's listening in. Today's guests at the English for Engineers podcast are Alice Miozzo Zana and Pierre-Yves Zana from Tranzana Translations. Hello there. So, Alice, I step over to the English pronunciation. It's easier. Otherwise, I have a tongue twister here. Alice and Pierre are an international couple who both work in the language industry as freelance translators. Alice is an Italian technical and marketing translator, and Pierre-Yves is a French engineer turned technical translator. And they work hand in hand to help industrial and tech companies overcome their linguistic challenges. And today we are going to explore the duality of their education. We are going to showcase the unique advantages they have because they combine linguistic and their engineering backgrounds. And we just jump into the first question, and we try to unveil the power of linguistics and engineering. Guys, how does your background in linguistics and engineering, how do you complement each other in your work as technical translators? How does that work?
So I think it's best if we start from the very beginning of our story. And it all started in Germany. At that time, Pierre-Yves was working as an engineer at Bosch, and I was studying foreign languages for publishing. And I was doing an Erasmus, a very funny one, if I can say, in the same town as him in the Stuttgart area.
As for me, I was starting to feel a bit bored with my job and kind of trapped. Bosch is a very huge company with pretty much an army of engineers. So there's little room for creativity and initiative. So I had a growing desire to do a job that I could perform from anywhere, something that wasn't tied to a specific location. At the same time, I had this growing passion for foreign languages. So I started to do some research to explore, the various possibilities, and that's how I found out that one of the natural choices was to become a technical translator, a choice that would allow me to unite both language services and engineering. So yeah, that's pretty much the state I was in when I first met Alice.
Unfortunately, I had only 1 month left in Germany,
Wait.
and then I get back to Italy, and then we spend almost a whole year apart.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, that was the final push. I decided to quit my job, and I moved over to Italy to start living with Alice. And that's it. That's how I started my career as a freelance technical translator.
Wow, what a story. So
Yeah.
one quick question in between. You
Mhm.
both worked and studied in Germany. So do you both speak German as well?
Uh, we
We
spoke German.
we used to, but I mean, funny enough, we spoke German with each other at the beginning.
Yeah.
Ah, that was
Yeah,
your relationship language even in the beginning.
exactly.
Mhm.
Like for 1 month, then
Yeah. And then long
Yeah.
distance started.
yeah,
Interesting.
then
Yeah, it's kind of a, I guess it's use it or lose it. So if you don't use a
mhm,
language, you forget
exactly.
it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Right now, we would completely be unable to speak German at all. Yeah, it's gotten too rusty. It was like
Yeah.
8 years ago.
Tried recently, but it was
Not
It was a
working.
disaster. I mean, we
So,
could still
quite a
utter
disaster.
some words, but yeah, it's
mhm. So what language are you using when you're speaking to each other? Is it Italian? Is it French? Is it mixed in English a little bit?
No, we don't use English
no.
anymore.
I mean,
But
we've never used English actually.
maybe when German was a little bit complicated
Yeah, at the
for
very
explaining
beginning.
something. Yeah.
At the very beginning, maybe, but I mean, we've been using French and Italian the whole time pretty much. And
We mix a lot.
yeah, we mix them up a lot.
Really, really a lot.
Because both languages, they might not sound quite the same, but they're very similar. They have very similar sentence structure and a very similar vocabulary. So it's super easy to mix them up. So we also play around with this a lot, you know.
Yeah, so I guess it's like my husband and me. We always mix up English and not English, German and Dutch, and
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
we throw in
Mhm.
some English because he uses English for work a lot as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's a funny mixture that only the two of you understand, I guess, when you're talking.
Yeah, kind of.
How did you start working as translators together?
After I graduated from university, I decided to follow his steps. So I completed a master in specialized translation, and that's how I became a freelance translator as well. And then we started working together, and we founded our brand, Tranzana.
Yeah, exactly. So that pretty much happened like 2 years after I started. 2 years after she completed her master and and followed my steps.
You told me, Pierre-Yves, you told me that you also did some, because you don't just become a great translator, technical translator based on talent or technical background. You told me that you had some special education for that as well. So you made some certificates.
Yes,
Yeah.
so what I did was I took an exam, a language exam in both English and Italian, a C2 exam.
A lot of translation companies, offices are really, really big and have teams, huge teams. What is for you two? What is the advantage of running a small technical translation office in terms of working together and also in terms of building personal connections with your clients?
Right. It's actually it allows us to uh, be closer, mostly to be closer to the client, to build a more human interaction, you know, and a more tailored one, you know. So
Yeah, a small team tends to listen to the clients more, to be more flexible, offer with services more tailored to the client specific needs. So, and it's also the same person who does the job, so there is more consistency.
yeah, yeah, because it's generally, you know, with, as you said, with big agencies, they tend to rely on a huge database of providers, and if one is not available, they're just gonna switch to the next one. Or if there is like a huge emergency, they're gonna split the project into several people. So just to make you an example, here's how it goes. You know, the client sends us an email. Saying the usual stuff, you know, I have this document to translate. This is the deadline, or maybe not, you know. And then what is your quote? It's like, what is your quote? So what we do is we don't send a quote right away. This is like probably the worst thing to do. Yeah.
Oh, that's smart.
We reply asking like a couple of first questions, you know, the basic ones like the deadline, the subject matter, etc. Everything that didn't, every obvious info that didn't provide, we ask every basic question, and then we try to schedule a video call or a phone call, you know, either one.
We want to know the client,
Yeah.
speak with the client, have the client see us, and
And you get a feeling for the personality because
yes.
Exactly. Having a phone call is incredibly important because it allows us to get to know them better, to understand their needs thoroughly, to get all of the possible information. We can be very thorough, you know, through a call. It's and by interacting over the phone, we also we establish more human interaction. The client sees us as real people, which is not achievable with emails. You know.
no. And I mean, that's a mean thing to say, or maybe that's the bad word I shouldn't use, but that's the thing you can't have with Google translations.
Exactly. Don't say that name.
No, don't use that word,
Ever.
bad word. Yeah, that's something that I have heard engineers that I'm working with, I have heard them
Hmm.
saying, can't I just put it into Google Translate? And I said, you can, but it's not wise.
Yes,
Exactly.
But I wouldn't, because language is something human and it should stay something human.
Yeah, it's fundamentally human. So I mean, and in the case of technical text, I hardly see that going well with AI. I mean,
Yeah. That's an
this,
interesting thing
yeah,
because technical English is not very poetic. It's not
no.
necessarily beautiful, a beautiful language, even technical Italian, technical
Hmm.
French. But I think the technical translations need the human factor most.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very
Yes,
specific.
Hmm.
It's
it requires deep comprehension, and when I say deep comprehension, I mean it's essential to have like a certain degree of technical expertise and
Hmm.
also experience, preferably, you know,
Hmm.
so that you just don't understand in a superficial way. You know exactly what happens behind all the words that you see. You know, you read
Yeah.
like the subtext. You know, it's yeah.
Have you ever had a case where you were reading the source text, the original text,
Mhm.
and you were like, that doesn't work. That's technically not possible. They made a mistake in the original text.
Oh
yeah,
yes,
sometimes.
yeah. This does happen every now and then. Like, you mean like a technical mistake, you know, something
Yeah.
that is not factual, you know. Yeah, I mean, I might have a couple example. I don't know. Like, I've seen a confusion between power and current, you know, in the field of electricity.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like,
you would know as an electrical engineer. Yeah. You
exactly,
know,
exactly. That's kind of my field. So
I know.
this I have to know. Yeah.
So if
And
you have for an technical translation regarding electricity, if you have an engineer and electrician behind that, you're not only a translator, you're also a proofreader
yes,
for the
Yeah,
source
exactly.
text.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's cool. That's good.
Hmm.
I mean, that's worth something to the client, I guess.
Yes,
It
I
better
guess
be.
it
It
is.
better be.
Yes, we hope so, because that's like we believe it's our biggest
Yeah, benefit.
yeah, our biggest
Yeah.
benefit, you know.
I have another question. So, what are the languages you're translating from and to?
We translate from English to French and Italian,
Hmm.
and from French to Italian, and from Italian to French.
Okay, so your how do you say it? The source text? How do you call the text that you're translating into? Is it the output or what is it called? Or the trusted translation?
The target text.
Oh, target, that's the word. Yes, the target
Yeah.
text. So so the target text is always one of your two mother languages.
Yes, yes,
Hmm.
yes, because I mean, maybe I could produce a decent, I mean, actually, a
Eh,
factual one, at least translation in English, but it will still need to be reviewed by a native speaker for like fluency, for like to make it sound more natural, you know. Mm.
And I guess it would take more time to
Yeah,
produce
it
it
would be
than
a lot more
writing
time
it.
consuming to get it
yeah,
right, you know. So
yeah.
that would not be very interesting money wise. Exactly.
Alice, your mother language is Italian. Do you also translate to French? Or do you
No.
split it? Do you split it that Pierre-Yves is really translating into French and you're translating into
Yeah,
Italian?
normally we do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then you proofread each other's texts.
Yes,
Yes,
we
yes,
do.
yes.
We generally
Yeah.
do.
And now comes the question that I guess it's one of my favorite questions because it's one of my favorite topics. Um, Cultural differences because it's so
Oh,
much more important than perfect grammar. Um,
true.
do you
Yeah.
do you communicate with your French clients differently than you do with your Italian clients or with your English clients? And could you give us an example how you adapt your language or your tone of voice to your clients?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's definitely something you want to yeah, you don't want to mess up with that, you know, because there are differences and you need to know them. We have to communicate differently based on the client's nationality.
Mhm. Italian are more informal. So the communication is more simple,
Mhm.
and we can say we feel more at ease, more comfortable when we have to write or to talk with some Italian clients.
Because do they forgive mistakes easier?
It has more to do with pronouns, like so this is something that might be harder to grasp in for English natives because they don't have like the distinction between informal and formal pronouns, but in both Italian and French we do, as well as in German. So in Italian, the formal pronoun pronoun is extreme. It's sorry, it's extremely formal. So
Mhm.
maybe too much, So
Mhm.
it's actually not the default pronoun. The default pronoun would be tu, would be like the
And
the
yes, we
informal one.
use it for all. I mean, in real life, in when we go to the restaurant or to
It's
some.
always the informal approach.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, like when you address people, even people on the street, or even like the waiter, if they're not too old, because if
Okay,
they're
yeah, then
a
it's
bit
for
old,
respect.
yeah, exactly. If they're not too old, you can feel free to use like the informal pronoun. It's
Mhm.
as I said, it's really the default pronoun. France, actually,
The
no,
opposite.
it's the opposite. The default pronoun is the informal one.
The formal
So
one.
the informal one, the informal, the vous.
Yeah,
The
that's formal.
sorry. Yeah, I meant the formal one. Sorry.
Yeah. Sometimes I have language chaos in my head. I guess you have the same right now. And it's been a
Exactly,
long day, and it's been a long
exactly.
day.
Yeah, I meant
Yeah.
the formal. Yeah.
So you have to switch when you talk
Yeah,
to people.
kind of. One interesting situation that happened to us is that I remember we were in France at that moment, and I don't know, I started talking with the guy on the street, and we started
Mhm.
using vous, of course, because
Mhm.
that's what you do. And then I discovered that the guy was Italian. So I started speaking in Italian with him. So, and of course, I used tu. I used like the informal
Mhm.
pronoun. Then when we switched back to French,
You went
it's
to the formal one.
no, actually not, because once you start getting informal in a language, it's kind of hard to keep it that way in the other one. You cannot like go back to being formal after you've been informal. So, yeah.
It's kind of similar to German and Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
In in Germany, the formal one is even used more than in Austria, but it's more about distance,
Mm-hmm.
and the formal approach in the Netherlands has more to do with respect. So
Okay.
even now, kids who are 3, 4, 5 years old talk to their parents using the formal one.
Oh, I
Okay.
see.
So yeah, really, so it has to do with respect and not with distance.
I
Um,
see.
really interesting. And when I started learning Dutch, there were a couple of elderly neighbors, and I always approached them because it's a first name base, but
Mm-hmm.
you still say u, so the formal one.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and then but I didn't. I used the informal jij.
Mm-hmm.
But and then after half a year, I finally realized, because I'd never had a proper Dutch lesson, I just learned the language with using it. And I realized that I was kind of impolite how I talked to them. And I said, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know." And I started using "u" and the formal approach. And they were like, "Ah, we know each other now. Just keep saying "yeah," keep the informal one." Yeah. But everyone around us, when I approached my neighbors who were 80 with the informal one, they had like big eyes, like, "Oh, how can you talk to them with the informal "yay"? Yeah. Really interesting how the emotional load is different in Germany and
Exactly.
in the Netherlands.
Exactly.
That's what I mean with there's more than grammar, because grammatically
Exactly.
I was correct, but I was still impolite.
But it's all, so it can also be kind of counterproductive to be too polite at some point, too formal, because you miss out on building a more genuine interaction
Connection,
with.
Yeah, we like to be more informal.
Exactly.
more
So,
easygoing.
which is why it's actually, I mean, for me, even though French is my native language and not Italian, it's easier to write emails in Italian as opposed to French. That's very
I
interesting.
I have the same thing now with German emails and Dutch emails. I
Hmm.
mean, the easiest for me is English emails, because after 12 years not living in a German-speaking country anymore, I tend to forget my mother language. But
Hmm.
writing German emails is really hard for me now after 12 years living outside of Austria. So yeah, it's easier, like you said, you're French, but it's
Yeah.
easier to write in Italian. I'm Austrian, but now it's easier for me to write in Dutch or English because it's more informal than German written communication. Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally relate.
Yeah. One more question because I'm really interested in. I'm following you on Instagram and I see all
Oh.
your stories and I love the coffee cups, by the way, that you posted about today. Really nice. You're talking about your coffee breaks that you're having together and that you're one of the posts was that you always set a task, you make tasks in the morning, you have your meetings in
Hmm.
the morning and then you
Exactly.
have
Yes, right.
tasks, and when one task is finished you meet in the kitchen for a coffee break and to
Exactly. I
discuss
mean,
what's going on. I love that. How do you work together? We mentioned that already, but how do you bring out the best of you, like the language masters from
mhm.
Alice, the engineering degree from Pierre-Yves? How do you combine those things to for the best possible outcome for your clients? How do you go
Uh,
about that?
yeah, so working together has indeed allowed us to combine our strength, I would say, and in order to achieve some results we wouldn't have been able to achieve individually. So, and I mean, both from a language and a technical point of view. From a technical standpoint, thanks to Pierre-Yves' background in engineering, which is, like we said, our most important benefit, um, we are able to work on extremely difficult technical projects, but really difficult, complex project, not only in French, so in Pierre-Yves' native language, but also in Italian. And in the case of technical translation into Italian, I get the leverage of Pierre-Yves' technical expertise, while he gets the leverage of my language skills as an Italian. So we can say we are
Yeah,
complementary.
we are very complementary, especially in the like into Italian when we deal with
Yeah, from French to
very
Italian.
complex technical projects into Italian.
No, I just wanted to say in your case 2 plus 2 is 5.
Kind of, yeah, kind of. We like that analogy. Yes.
Yeah.
And in addition, from a purely language standpoint, having two different native languages can be very valuable when dealing with translation projects from French to Italian and vice versa.
Hmm.
So because then I mean in both cases, it allows us to better understand the source text because
Hmm.
usually you translate into your native language, so but you can since the source language is not written in your native language, you still have some trouble understanding it, and
Hmm.
but in that case, for example, when I'm working on a Italian to French translation project, I can ask Alice language related questions regarding the source text on the spot.
Hmm.
Yeah, and this
That's
this happen more often than not. Especially when the source is not
well written.
written so well.
I'm just thinking of now, of course, the last 3 years, my husband both working in a home office, but my
Hmm.
husband going back now to the office more and more often. But when a lot of his um, material that he has to read and use is written in English, and we're just
Hmm.
sitting, I guess, 3 meters apart, and even he's an electrical engineer as well, systems
Hmm.
engineer, and then sometimes it's so easy for him to just say, honey, can you just help me with that, with the wording? Can you just help me? Did I understand that right? If it's really a critical text. So I can imagine even for
I
you,
see.
even more because we're not translators.
Yes.
Um, and he's still in his respective job and totally plans to do
Mhm.
that. But yeah, I can see how that really is a great pro to be able to work together as a
Exactly.
couple, just sitting a few meters apart and have each other's back.
I just wanted to say that the client um, will have a native language
Yeah.
in the target text and in the source text.
Text.
So he
Yeah.
will benefit from the work of two natives in both
Yeah.
languages.
Yeah. That's
Exactly.
incredible. That's a
Mhm.
perfect that word is killing me. This is a perfect collaboration. What else did I want to ask you? Oh yeah, that was one question I jotted down as well. How much of your translation work is French, Italian, Italian, French, and how much English is involved?
Hmm.
I would say that obviously we like working a lot more with the French to Italian and vice versa combination.
Hmm.
When we deal with that's our like strongest pair. So everything that's I mean we tend to accept every kind of project involving those two languages. Those are the projects we like the most. Um, but we also do receive a good share of English to Italian and English to French projects. Maybe less often because those, especially when dealing with agencies, because those language combinations tend to be a bit more crowded. There are a lot more people in France and Italy who can speak English and who are translators from English to the native language. Yeah.
What are your or do you have plans for the future? Where do you want to go with your business? Or if you want to share, you don't have to. Maybe it's all top secret.
Oh, sure, sure. No, I mean we
It's not
can
top
we can.
secret.
No, it's not nothing top secret. uh, we've been mostly working with agencies so far. We've had a couple direct clients who contacted us. Mostly, we never did a direct client prospecting so
Mhm.
far, and
Oh,
that's
just to clarify for the listeners, for the engineers.
yes.
So there are big agencies, translation agencies,
Hmm.
and they source out the work to you then because they know you are the experts for Italian,
Exactly,
French. Okay.
exactly,
And the other case would be that the client directly approaches you, an engineering
exactly.
company or something. Okay, good.
So that's the thing. We want to cut the middleman and directly deal with direct clients. So we want to start a prospecting campaign, contacting direct clients
Mhm.
directly.
Yeah, because there is where you get the gratification from the clients
Exactly,
that when they are
exactly.
happy with the work you deliver.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and working should be fun.
Dealing with those taking care of those direct clients direct client projects was a lot more gratifying for us. It was a much better experience. So that's the direction we want to take.
Slowly but surely coming to the end of this episode. Is there anything I forgot to ask you? Anything you still want to add?
Maybe this might be an idea for the future. That goes along with targeting, direct with prospecting with contacting direct clients. In the future, what we would like to do is to build a small team of translators with a technical background as me, just like me, so in different languages. So we want to be like this small team of hyper specialized people, and so in order to be able to offer services, technical translation
Highly
services
specialized.
in other languages, like we're probably going to start with
German.
major European languages, like
German,
German,
Spanish.
like
And
German and Spanish. Yeah,
it's not easy to find a technical translator who really is specialized, who really has a technical background,
yes.
like Pierre-Yves.
Hmm.
So building a team of really specialized people we think would be a good
That would be
idea.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the dream.
that will make a big difference, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, something I can relate to as well, because that was when I realized English for engineers is a thing. Because when I started teaching English, I taught everyone. And then I had my very much lucky for me, very much in the beginning, I had an engineering client. And during the first lesson, he explained something to me. And I said, "Oh, so you mean it's like this and that?" And he said, "Oh my gosh, yes, you're an engineer as well. I'm so glad I don't have to explain stuff to you. You understand me." And I think in translation, it's the same thing. If
Mhm.
you
Yes,
have
yes.
an expert on the other side who understands your job and your problems and your challenges, then it's a win-win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. This kind of knowledge, this kind of expertise is incredibly valuable. It took a while to realize that,
Mhm.
but now I'm fully aware of this, of the value of such an expertise.
That's pure gold.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Alice and Pierre-Yves. To the engineers and all the people who are listening, if you now think I need Alice or Pierre's expertise for my project, Tranzana Translation is exactly what I was looking for my French, Italian, English technical translations. I'm going to link all their company details. That was it. This was English for Engineers with a connection to one of my favorite Italian cities today, Verona. Wishing you all a great night. I'm your host, Olivia Augustin. Talk to you soon.